Hi everyone, and welcome to the DevSecOps track. I'm Denise Murtha-Dunn, a volunteer in the OWASP community and currently OWASP Dublin chapter lead in Ireland. I'll be moderating today's session. During the next 45 minutes, you'll be listening to Björn Kimminich present all about the OWASP Juice Shop project, which is an interactive, insecure web application training environment. For any questions you may have, please submit them during the session in the Q&A tab just to the right of this video on the Whova platform. I'll then be asking Björn your questions in the last 10 minutes of the session. Please note that the chat function in Zoom is actually disabled for attendees, but you can leave comments and chat using the chat tab in the Whova app or online. So just to introduce Björn, Björn is currently an IT project group lead in Kimminich, responsible for application security. He's very passionate about security and application security, which is really evident through his volunteer work with OWASP, where he is an OWASP Life member, chair on the OWASP committee, OWASP Juice Shop project leader, and co-chapter leader for the OWASP Germany chapter. So with that, I'm going to hand you over to Björn.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm a busy OWASP, so to say. So I will start sharing my screen. Please tell me if it works. Does? Okay, perfect. So yeah, welcome everyone to this introduction session about the OWASP Juice Shop. I will start from the beginning for those who've never heard about Juice Shop before and who might have never seen it before, but I will go in more detail only for into some, let's say, of some of the newer topics that we just recently added. So even if you had, like a few years ago, maybe an intro session to Juice Shop, there should be still something interesting in this for you. So we are currently at version 14.0.1 with Juice Shop, because we take semantic versioning very seriously. So whenever something breaking changes in the application, we actually increment the actual major version of the platform. So let's start. So the tagline of Juice Shop is, it's probably the most modern and sophisticated insecure web application, although it's by now in its 8th year. So it's not that new anymore, but we keep it up to date. And so I hope that the most modern tagline still applies. And I would guess so. Most sophisticated definitely applies, and you will see why when during the presentation. So here are some customer testimonials that I actually collected over the years. None of these are fake, so the links to all of the original tweets and everything you can actually find there. So it has been called the most trustworthy online shop out there. Might be a kind of ironic statement here. The best Juice Shop on the whole internet. That's very kind. It's actually the most bug-free, vulnerable application in existence, because we actually care about our code base and try to make sure that the application itself actually works the way it should be, but it's still massively vulnerable, of course. Yeah, first it makes you laugh really hard, then it makes you cry when you actually see what happens behind the scenes and what actual technical issues and security issues are in it. And the wife of one colleague actually complained when she saw it that this actually has nothing really to do with Juice, and she was kind of sad about that. So starting with the first demo, this is what I always like to do, show you what the Juice Shop actually can do and what you can use it for, because it's an actual e-commerce application where you can purchase, surprise, juice and associated products. So when you start the Juice Shop, this instance here is running locally on my computer at the moment. You basically get this this overview here of products that you can actually buy. So let's see what does it have. It also has this lovely cookie banner. Well, I will leave that open for a bit. So let's show a few more products here. So as you can see, there's all kinds of different juice you can actually buy. Here, for example, some lemon juice. Okay, very nice. But also some merchandise products. For example, there's coasters with the Juice Shop wallpaper background. Unfortunately, those are sold out at the moment. Or there's, I don't know, for example, one of our favorites, actual temporary tattoos, which you can really purchase if you want. And those have even been reviewed by someone who seems to be really into tattoos. So you can see there's lots of stuff here. So I'm already logged in from the previous session, it seems. So let's log out. Now you can see I cannot put anything into my shopping basket, but of course, that's what I actually want to do, right? I want to do the Happy Path shopping tour. So I have to log in. When I'm a new user, I actually would have to register, right? Classic way of doing this. I will, to not spend too much time with this part of the presentation, I will just use our demo user. So log in, and now you can see I'm logged in with the demo account, and now I will just purchase some stuff, like, for example, a little bit of apple juice, maybe also some lemon juice, and I might actually want one of these melon bikes, which look really cool. It's expensive, but it looks great. So now I'm going to my shopping basket. So I can decide, okay, I want a little bit more lemon juice, maybe even more apple juice. So let's increase those a little bit. And maybe this melon bike is a little bit too expensive for me. So I will just throw it out of the cart again and will proceed to checkout. As the demo user, I already have an address. So let's just use that one. I can choose a delivery speed. So yeah, it's only juice, so I'm fine with standard delivery, so it's free, but it might take actually 5 days to reach me. Let's continue. And now I have to obviously pay. So I could either use my already registered credit card, or I can use my in-store digital wallet, right? Because I have 200 credits, whatever currency this is, on my wallet. So let's use that to actually pay. I will not get any bonus points. Okay, that's sad, but now I have completed my purchase. I'll get some confirmation here. I actually can, if I want, see the actual invoice, which is generated as a PDF, can download it, store it, print it, whatever I like. And I can already even go to the order tracking page here and see when my delivery will arrive, right? So it's currently, as you can see, still in the warehouse, 5 days away from my home. Lovely. So this is obviously the main juice shop use case, because we want to sell you stuff and want to make money from that. Of course, there's some side use cases as well. So for example, we're always happy to receive customer feedback, right? So if you just want to give us some credit for what we are doing great, or maybe even not so great, you can do that. You have to solve a really complicated captcha to actually submit it, because we don't want to get spammed too much. If you're not so happy, you can of course also complain. You can even upload your invoice with the order that the complaint is about. So we are not so happy to receive those, but yeah, we take them anyway. If you have a question, you can ask our friendly support chatbot. So my name is Björn. Hi, Juicy. Okay, so I can ask Juicy all kinds of questions. So for example, how much is apple juice? Let's see, maybe Juicy knows. Juicy tells me now how much apple juice costs, but also how much lemon juice and apple pommes cost. Okay, well, it didn't get that product exactly. So I can also, for example, ask Juicy some other questions, but this is actually part of the hacking experience already, and I don't want to spoil too much. There's a photo wall where you can upload your favorite photos from your experience with products that you purchased at the juice shop, for example. There's an About Us page where you can read everything about the exciting history of the juice shop company. You can also find all our social media links, etc., etc. You can even become a deluxe member for the amount of only 49 whatever currency for 1 year, then you actually get free fast delivery, for example, and other benefits. And in your account, there's even more features, right? So you can get to your order history, you can change your addresses, you can read our privacy policy, you can even, if you want, you can even set up 2-factor authentication, right? So, and I guess nothing bad would ever happen from me showing this QR code on a screen and having that actually recorded somewhere. So you can see there's lots of stuff you can actually do with this application. So that was the actual happy path, right? So if you just want to play around with a web shop, this is actually what you want to do. And you might have noticed that there was actually nothing going wrong here, right? And nothing really looked that suspicious or was broken. So it's actually working. The only thing that doesn't work is you will not get whatever you order because there's no real company behind this that will send you the stuff. But everything else works quite nicely. So, of course, as Denise already mentioned, this is actually a training environment for web application vulnerabilities and general problems with secure design and everything. So the Juice Shop contains a number of 100 hacking challenges from all kinds of categories, from technical stuff like cross-site scripting, SQL injection, that kind of thing, but also wrong usage of cryptography, the inability to prevent automation attacks, and complete security design disasters. Also using insecure components. So basically you find everything in the Juice Shop that you will find on the OWASP top 10, not only the current one, but also the one from the, let's say, I would almost say like from the beginning of the OWASP top 10. Everything that you ever had on that list is probably already in the Juice Shop. These 100 hacking challenges or exercises are ranked into 6 levels of difficulty. So starting from beginner-friendly ones with 1 star, going all the way up to 6 stars. So as a beginner, you should find enough things to do, but also as a security expert, there are some tough nuts to actually crack here. And when you actually hack the Juice Shop will notice when you succeed in one of the 100 challenges and will tell you so and collect your progress or save your progress on our scoreboard. And actually finding the scoreboard is usually the first challenge that people have to solve. And you might have noticed I didn't close this this welcome banner. Let me go to the starting page here. I didn't close this banner because I actually wanted to click on this button, right? So I would like to get some help to actually get started with the real use cases of the Juice Shop. When I do that, I will now see this, let's zoom in a bit, this friendly little bot here with the face mask for safety reasons. That will give me some advice what I actually need to do, right? And it tells me, okay, first thing I need to do is finding the scoreboard. Okay, so there are no links directly leading to the scoreboard, unfortunately. So, okay, so now it tells me I could either just try guessing the URL, or let's see, double click to proceed, or I could try to find out something more about the available pages in the Juice Shop in the development tools of my browser. So that's a nice hint actually. So let's see. And now it tells me, okay, please try that out. So I would try to do it with the dev tools. So let's see, where do I find the source code of this application in my browser? So it's probably here in the sources tab. And you can see this is actually the index HTML page, and that only has like 30 lines. So this must be some really sophisticated application, or there are some really long lines if this whole application functionality fits into this short index HTML. Well, actually, the real source code, of course, lives in JavaScript files. These here, right? So runtime, polyfills, main.js. So let's see. So the main.js is actually the real client-side code. And it's all in a single line with almost 400,000 characters. So this is not really easy to read, but luckily Chrome comes with a pretty print function. So now I'm actually having like 14,000 something lines of JavaScript, which I can go through. So let's see. I will just do this little trick here, searching for score. And it finds a few hits, which don't really help me that much. Let's see. Scoreboard challenge. App scoreboard, title scored. Ah, this looks good. Paths, right? Here's a list of paths the application knows. And there's a path scoreboard being mentioned. Okay, so I'm happy to try that. Just go to scoreboard. And yeah, that did it, right? So now I actually found the scoreboard of the juice shop. Juicy congratulates me. I can close this now. I get a notification here on the top that I actually solved a challenge, and I already see here in that I actually solved this challenge successfully, right? And here you can now also see that there's lots of other challenges available in the application. And you can filter in any way you like, right? So you can exclude solve challenges. You can, for example, only show the easy ones or whatever, or just maybe focus only on cross-site scripting. So it's basically filterable in any way you like. So that's the basic functionality. Maybe just for fun, maybe we can do one more actual hacking challenge. So let's see. Let's pick something that shouldn't be too hard. Like, let's take a look at the available cross-site scripting challenges here. You can see there's quite a lot, easier ones and harder ones. Let's see, I think there's even a 6-star cross-site scripting challenge. We will not try that one because that would take longer than an hour. But let's go with one of the 1-stars here, for example, DOM XSS. Perform a DOM XSS attack with this payload. Okay, I will copy this payload already. And now I basically have two options, right? So I can just try it on my own, or I could again launch one of these tutorial scripts, and then the little bot would again help me to actually solve this, right? But in this case, I think we don't need that, because one of the most classic places for cross-site scripting issues is search functionality, right? So when I'm searching for orange, I find everything that's related to oranges. Okay, that's good. But I also get this, the search string on the top here, right? So, and I could now see what happens if I play around with the search string a little bit. Like, for example, doing something crazy, like adding some HTML around it. And you can see this already had some influence, right? So let's see what happens if I add a horizontal line. I actually see the horizontal line, right? So it seems that the input here on the top is not properly encoded when it's being put into the HTML. So it actually just does what I tell it to do. And that might also include JavaScript. So I will use the payload that I copied from the scoreboard in this case, which should now give us a little alert box. And when I submit this, you can see here's the alert. I can close this now, and I will get confetti again and this notification here on the top, right? And if I now go back to the scoreboard, you will see that I actually solved this challenge, right? So that's basically it. So, and you can do that for the remaining 1898 hacking challenges on your own now, if you want. But there's of course more to be found in the juice shop, more things you can do with it. You could start the juice shop in our so-called tutorial mode. So here it will only show you the challenges which have this kind of helper bot tutorial, right? Where this our little juicy bot actually tells you what to do and gives you some hints. It will first only give you the 1-star challenges. So you basically have 4 tasks you can complete. And once you completed these 4, it will basically unlock the 2-star challenges with tutorials and so on up to the 3-star ones. And so, and only when you have solved all the tutorial challenges, it will then unlock the entire scoreboard, right? And you can basically continue in open world mode, so to say, and just do whatever you like. This can be quite useful when you know that you have a group of students, for example, and they have no previous experience with this, and you want to prevent that they just start doing something crazy with challenges they might not be prepared for yet, right? So this is a very nice beginner-friendly feature. We also have something to help you as a trainer, for example, or especially as a trainer or teacher, to find out if the users are actually seriously trying or if they are just copying solutions from the internet or just cheating with some tools and scripting things. So behind the scenes, the scoreboard is measuring how long it takes a user to actually solve a challenge. So we have some estimated real minimum time that we expect a challenge to be solved in. And if you are under that time, then you get a cheat score assigned, right? And then it will basically calculate over all challenges how likely it is that the user actually cheated. That is quite nice. This is absolutely invisible to the actual user. So unless you look at the console. So here in this case, on my local computer here, right? So for the first scoreboard challenge, it actually tells me it took 53 minutes since I started the server. Okay, so 0 cheating points. For this cross-site scripting challenge that I did afterwards, the time difference was 3 minutes between finding the scoreboard and actually successfully exploiting the XSS. Expectation is it takes at least 1 minute. So if I would have done this in like 5 seconds, I would now get a certain score for cheating assigned, right? And this is actually how it's done. And this information is also available to other systems via some webhook that I will explain later. So we also have one feature that is still quite new, which is called coding challenges. So whenever you solved a hacking challenge, like we just did with the cross-site scripting, for example, you can try to, for some of the challenges, there's a subsequent coding challenge available where you should try to find out why this problem actually exists. And this is something which I would also like to show you. And let's pick as the example our just solved DOM XSS attack, right, on the search field. So if you click this button here, it will open up the coding challenge screen. And the first thing you have to do is actually find the line or multiple lines which are responsible for this vulnerability. So let's go through this. So there's some filter table functionality here that takes some parameter from the query. And if that query parameter exists, it will trim it. Okay, it will put it to lowercase. It will save it in a field called search value. And it will then do some stuff with it. And that's almost it, right? So this seems to be what happens on the client side to actually filter the search result. So this is nothing happening on the server, but on the client. So my guess is that this line looks a little bit wrong, right? So bypassing security and trusting HTML sounds exactly like the thing that causes this problem. But just for fun, let's pretend I have no idea, and I really think that trimming might actually be the worst thing you could actually do here. So let's select line 4 and submit this, and it will now tell me that this was wrong. Okay, so maybe it's not trimming, maybe it's actually getting this parameter in the first place. So let's select this one, and I submit this again. And now, because I submitted 2 wrong answers in a row, I get a little hint telling me, okay, maybe you should look into this. Okay, yeah, but I'm sure I mean it really must be this. Maybe it's these 3 lines in total. Let's submit this again, right? And now I get another hint. And typically we have like up to 3 hints. And if you still don't have it right, then you will just get you will just be told what line exactly it is, so that you'll never really get completely stuck. But of course, I know that this line 6 is the problem here. So let's select it, submit it. I get confetti again, and I'm now in the second stage of the coding challenge, which is actually finding a proper fix for the problem. So here, the application is offering me 4 possible fixes, and it will give me this nice diff overview here of the code difference, right? So here the recommendation is in the first fix, okay, remove this line and instead use security trust resource instead of HTML. Okay, so let's check line 2. Here it says just use the value as it is. Okay, that looks boring, but well, let's check the other options. Trusting scripts instead. And number 4, trusting styles instead. Okay, trusting styles, that doesn't seem to make sense. Maybe trusting scripts. That looks reasonable. If I want, I could also just remove the noise of the original code around this, right? By just showing the change lines, or I could use the side-by-side comparison, right? It's a matter of taste. So let's pick this solution, knowing that this, of course, this is wrong, and submitting it. And JuiceShop will now explain to me why this is, of course, not a fix for that actual problem, right? So it has really no benefit to actually do this. So maybe this would actually fix the problem or some problems with, but only by coincidence. This is not really a fix. The obvious real fix was, of course, number 2, which just removes this crazy bypass of security, right? So you just use the parameter as is. Because in the case of this application, the framework being used, which is Angular, will do encoding by default. So here you basically have to, what we are doing here is we are turning off the encoding on purpose, right? And of course, then the recommendation is, guys, don't do that. For other frameworks, that might be different, right? So they might not encode by default, and you would instead have to do a manual encoding yourself. But luckily, Angular is quite sophisticated and is giving you proper secure defaults for this. So let's submit this. I get confetti again, and I also get a little explanation why this was the right answer, right? And that's basically the coding challenge part. For both the coding and the hacking challenges, I can provide feedback with these thumbs up, thumbs down buttons, which basically will send you to a Google form, and you can basically just leave a comment if you want what you liked or what you didn't like. So that's the coding challenges. JuiceShop can do even more than all that. You can also use JuiceShop in capture the flag events. Of course, you could just use it as it is, but we actually have a quite nice configuration change that you can make that will make JuiceShop emit flag codes whenever you solve a challenge. And you can then copy that and could paste that into a central scoring server. Now the question is, okay, how do I get these flag codes into my scoring server? Do I have to manually set up everything in my score server system? Luckily, you don't, because we support 3 different score servers, more or less out of the box, and you can quite easily set them up. So I will show that in a minute, how that actually works. Another nice thing is you can, of course, host a CTF event centrally, but if you're doing just some just for fun event, people could even use JuiceShop locally on their computer and participate in an online hosted CTF as long as they use the correct key on the score server that is used by the score server to generate these flag codes. So then you can basically even have decentralized CTFs. Of course, you should never do that for prize money or anything, right? Because then people can just cheat, of course. To actually set up a CTF, you can use our CTF extension, which supports CTFD, by now I would say really out of date Facebook CTF server. I think it's archived even already on GitHub, but it still works. And also root the box. So basically, you just install a little npm module on your computer, or you use the corresponding Docker image. And when you run this, you basically get a little command line tool where you have to answer a couple of questions. What framework do you want to use? Where is the application hosted? Where we can find actually the challenges, what key to use, etc. You can also choose if you want people to pay for hints on the score server or not, or if they should get no hints at all or hints for free. And then you will get a kind of a data dump being generated by this tool that you can then just import into the corresponding score server. So our recommendation is CTFD version, I think 3 or 4 at the moment. So version 2, the screenshot here is a little bit older. And root the box, right? So you just import it, and then you basically get a working CTF setup. You can also run this tool in a headless mode, if you will. And in the end, what you get is a completely populated CTF environment with all the 100 challenges, with proper scores being assigned. So the 1-star challenges bring you less points than the 5 or 6-star challenges, right? Hints also cost more for the more difficult ones. So if you read our documentation for this CTF setup, this is really in the actual time for setting this up is really just installing the server, running this tool, and then it's like 5 minutes for importing and setting doing some clicking through the user interface of the score server, and that's it, right? And then you have a completely working CTF setup. Some other support that we have especially for trainings, but it can also be nicely used for CTFs, of course, is the multi-juicer platform, which is a third-party project. And this allows you to spawn and host lots of juice shop instances on a Kubernetes cluster. So basically, the setup looks like this. So you have this Kubernetes cluster here, and when a person comes to the entry point, which is basically the UI on top of a custom built load balancer, you have the chance to choose a team name, and when you do, then you will get your own instance, and the juice balancer will always, when you revisit, send you back to your own instance. You also get a code to actually have a second person sign up for the same team, right? And you can have almost any number of juice shop instances, as much as your Kubernetes cluster basically can manage, right? So I'm doing, for example, next week a full week online training for like 50 something people in my company, and then we basically use multi-juicer to actually give everyone a juice shop instance. That's very convenient and very, very nice way to just quickly set up a complete training environment for multiple people. Some other features, you can, if you want, completely rebrand the juice shop. So you can make it look like it would belong to your own company, for example. So let me quickly show you how that looks like. So let's go to the starting page here. So now we are on the default juice shop theme, right? Keep that in mind while I kill the server and start it again with a custom theme, or Mozilla in this case. So now the juice shop will start. And what it does behind the scenes always, also in the default configuration, it will check if your configuration is correct, if you're running it on the right Node.js versions, if your configuration is fine, if all the expected files are there and all that, if the port is free, etc. So now I have on my local host port 3000, the juice shop just restarted. And because I didn't refresh my window yet here, it still looks like the default theme, right? But one other thing you just noticed, during the restart, the juice shop has restored all my hacking progress from some cookies. That's why you actually see these two green pop-ups again, right? This is also very convenient. If your juice shop crashes, you just restart it and then everything will be back, right? As long as you save cookies. So let's close these, and now I just refresh, and you will see a lot of things actually changed. The colors changed, the products changed, even the cookie banner down here changed, right? And also, for example, I think here in the support chat, I think also the image here for the chatbot changed. If I go to the About Us page, for example, it now only has the Mozilla Twitter account. There's no more Facebook, Reddit, etc. Right? So basically, you can completely customize the juice shop. And the most impressive thing, I think, is that you can completely change the inventory, right? So there's now, except for this one that you might remember, right? This 3D printing of the juice shop logo, everything is now Mozilla themed. And this is actually quite nice. And you can do that for your own company, if you like, or for your university or whatever, some organization. And it's quite well documented how to actually do this. Just to show you how sophisticated the customization actually works, I actually created a different configuration for my company, the company I work for, but I didn't update that for quite a while. So if I use that, the juice shop will not start. It will instead emit some warnings about errors in the configuration, right? And it will also tell me where I find information how to actually fix this. So it's actually quite user-friendly, I would say. So let's start it again in the default setup and go back to the slides. So this is actually how the configuration looks like behind the scenes. So everything is part of one big YAML file where we have the name of the application, the logo, locations, the color theme, all kinds of things, right? The social URLs, etc. So it's all customizable via one file, even down to the inventory of the actual shop. So you can define all your products there if you like. Okay, so that was basically the actual front end or the user perspective of the juice shop. All that I wanted to show. Now, just a little bit of background on the things behind the scenes. So the juice shop is, as I mentioned already, it's an Angular application using Angular 13 at the moment. Uses material design for the look and feel. In the back end, we have a Node.js server. We're using Express, and we use a very simple, lightweight database with SQLite, which is connected to by our by an object relational mapping tool called SQLize. And yeah, basically that's the main components, right? There's also a NoSQL DB, which is just running in memory. So this whole application is really so lightweight that you can just host it in a single Docker container. So there's no Docker compose where you have to spawn the database here and another database there, and then some load balancer, and then you have already 5 containers running to actually have one juice shop instance. It's all in one. And it's really, really easy to install, right? You can either do it the way that I did. I'm just having the local installation. I'm here in my GitHub. I just cloned the repo and just did an npm install and npm start, and then basically the juice shop was up. That's one way to actually do this. You can also use our Docker image, or if you like Vagrant, we also have a Vagrant file to actually spawn juice shop quickly. You can also use Heroku quite nicely. For that, you only need to go to the juice shop repository and scroll down to the setup, and here you find a button, deploy to Heroku. If you click on that button, you will be, if you're already logged into Heroku, it will just send you to a setup screen, and like 2 minutes later you have your running instance. If you are not registered at Heroku yet, you need to sign up for an account, but then still it's more or less register, sign in, click, running instance, done, right? So it doesn't get any easier than that. But then of course it's cloud hosted, and if you prefer to have it locally, of course you should more look into the Node.js or Docker hosting. You can also do it with with Azure, Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, whatever. So it basically runs everywhere, especially because if you're using the Docker image, then yeah, everywhere where Docker runs, you can make the juice shop run. Juice shop also has multi-language support for lots of languages actually, and we didn't look into this really, but I can show you that. So if I refresh again, oh, I didn't start the server, right? Let's see. Should be back up, right? There we go. Okay, there it is again. Here, let's close that banner now. You can see here in the top right bar, you can basically select any language you like. The little thermometer here indicates how complete the translations are. So for example, if I switch to German, it will now, some things will now immediately be translated, right? Some other things which came from the database are not, but if I refresh the screen, you will see that even the product names are now in German, right? So not all languages have this completeness. For German, it's 100% because I natively speak German, so I always do that translation along the way. But we also have some other languages where we have a very high translation rate. And for some, we have quite a good one. And for some, we have just a little bit. So if you would like to help with the translation in the juice shop, we use actually Crowdin to do this. And that's, yeah, we always appreciate help there. Also on the technical side, we have a testing pyramid where we have some unit tests or quite a few unit tests with different frameworks running. We have API tests that actually verify the integration layer, API layer of the juice shop. And we have end-to-end tests, which we are currently rewriting in a Google Summer of Code project from Protractor into Cypress. And these tests are quite nice because they actually don't test the functionality of the juice shop, the shopping experience, but they actually test the challenges. So they actually automate the exploits and then see if the scoreboard turned green for each particular challenge. And by that, we know when someone accidentally breaks a challenge with a code change. On the build side, we're using quite a lot. Our biggest tool at the moment is GitHub Actions. Of course, behind the scenes, everything from the whole Node ecosystem is coming as well. We have some tests and some tools being put on top, like Code Climate, for example, for quality and code coverage analysis. Also running some security pipelines on GitLab just for fun. And we even trigger automated OWASP scans on the repository on the Juice Shop's demo instance like every week, I think. And we have set a lot of these warnings to ignore because we actually want those vulnerabilities, which you normally shouldn't do. You can integrate the Juice Shop with other tools. For example, we do, and I mentioned that before, we have a webhook that is triggered, or that you can consume whenever a challenge is solved. So this emits the challenge name, the assumed cheat score for the challenge, but also in total for that user. And so you could basically, in some central, I don't know, learning management system or something, you could record this. Multi-juicers in the latest version, I think it's based on this, I suppose, to actually notice if someone solved a challenge as well. So that's that's a nice technical integration that you can actually use. You can also use a template that we provide for a Grafana dashboard where you can then monitor a Juice Shop instance. That's just to show you that real quick, because we are almost running out of time here. This is the Grafana dashboard from the last, I think, 7 days for the Juice Shop's demo instance, which I'm hosting on Heroku. And you can see how many challenges have been solved. You can even see the overall cheat score, and you see that it went up and down a little bit, but you can also find some technical information about the requests happening, etc. So this is all coming as a template that you can just install on your wherever you want. In my case, this Grafana dashboard and the Prometheus server to actually collect the metrics is running on a Raspberry Pi 24/7 under my desk. So, okay, good. So we will not go through these FAQs here, but you can find this presentation online. And also, if you want to find out more details about aspects of Juice Shop, there's one really good resource which I can highly recommend, and that is our Owning OWASP Juice Shop ebook, which you can just go through online. You can also download it from LeanPub if you want. And here you find everything, right? From the basics to, I don't know, for example, here, a complete instruction guide how to host a CTF with Juice Shop, with most of the images you already saw, with instructions for each of the supported frameworks, how to import everything there. You also find a complete guide on customization, for example, right? So where we explain all the configuration values. So it should be really, if you like reading, then afterwards you should be able to just set up your complete own Juice Shop theme with not too many issues, right? Then there's hints and even full solutions for all the hacking challenges inside this book. And yeah, so it's a very complete documentation, I would say. No, we wanted to skip that. Okay, so last actual content slide. This is actually my personal favorite slide of every presentation. It's our success pyramid. So the Juice Shop across over the 8 years of its existence had 84 contributors in total. It's an OWASP flagship project since 2016, actually. We even have an open source security foundation gold medal, right? Because we are such a great and secure application. Now the medal is actually for the more technical part, right? And for our how we set up our GitHub and how we manage pull requests and do continuous integration and all that. So of course this does not take into account the intended vulnerabilities. Then it would probably not be a gold medal. For an open source project, I think we have quite a nice test coverage, although it was higher some years ago, and we try to get back there. And as you can also see, it's used quite a bit with almost 7,000 GitHub stars, quite a few downloads in GitHub and also SourceForge. And the most crazy number in this whole list here is the total of 48 million times the Docker image has been pulled. On the project roadmap, as I mentioned, our change from Protractor to Cypress for the end-to-end tests. I would actually like to get the code coverage or the test coverage back to 90%. And we would like to actually migrate our ebook to a more modern format because the current one doesn't get any support anymore. That's basically it. If you are interested in the project, here are the most important links. I guess because it's OWASP, it should be obvious. Everything here is open source, either MIT or Creative Commons license. If you're interested in some additional nice things which I published, I have a complete IT security lecture for 2 semesters on GitHub, which is an open educational resource. And in the second semester, basically, you can find a completely prepared training for web security using the Juice Shop as an exercise environment. That's it.
That's
1 minute
great.
overtime.
That's okay. Thank you so much.
I'm happy to take any questions.
I do have a few here, so I will read out some of the questions that we've received from some of the audience. So thanks very much for that. It was really interesting. And the first question we have is, do you have ambition to enhance Juice Shop or to prepare separate project more orientated to secure development, like coding challenges for multiple coding languages, etc.?
Okay, short answer, no, because this would just not be, this is just way beyond the scope, right? So our coding challenges, the way they actually work, I didn't explain that, they actually pull the real code from the server and display that in the first screen where you have to select the broken line, right? The only thing that is hard coded for these challenges is the selection of fix files, right? So the possible fixes. Everything else, the broken part, is completely coming from the actual source code, and offering that in different languages, it would be decoupled from the real application, right? So if I'm using a JavaScript application and then I'm getting a Python coding challenge, there's no real. It would be really hard to make the translate those very well and keep the connection. So no, that's not in scope for Juice Shop.
Great, thank you for that. And then in similar vein, we have another question here saying, is Juice Shop finished, or do you always add new challenges or features, etc.?
Actually, when the latest OWASP Top 10 was released, the 2021 edition, which came end of last year, I checked if I needed to add any new challenges to actually still fulfill my promise of having everything on the OWASP Top 10. And in this case, I didn't have to add anything because we already had the things that came into the OWASP Top 10, right? That might change. Of course, then we will definitely add those. And we also have sometimes on GitHub some nice ideas for new challenges. I'm even at the point where I would actually like to retire some of the challenges, because when you use the Juice Shop, you will see some of the challenges are serious vulnerabilities, others are more just for fun, and some of those, well, let's say they're a little bit outdated by now and could use a replacement. But I don't want to get below the 100 the number of 100 challenges in total. So whenever we would want to remove something, we would first have to add something new. Yeah, just one example. We always dreamt of having some challenges around graph databases, like attacking GraphQL instead of having SQL injection. But so far, for example, we have had no good idea how to actually implement that. But we're always happy to take just challenge ideas or even implementation proposals.
That's great. So if whoever's listening, if you have any ideas or proposals, please do put them forward to Björn. And then another question that has just come in is, what do you test for using OWASP Zap? Are you testing whether the challenges can be found by OWASP Zap? No,
our Zap test that we have set up is just using the Zap baseline scan. So it's basically a prepared GitHub action from the Zap team that we just run, and we just point it to the demo instance, and it will just do some, I think it's a 2-minute time boxed, very limited scan. It will only find a few things because most of the juice shop problems are hidden very deep in the functionality. So it is quite hard to actually test the juice shop with some fully automated tools. So it's already hard enough for a person sitting in front of it and trying to find everything, even with tools. But just point and shoot with some tool, no matter if it's Zap or any other scanner. So far, there were no convincing results from fully automated scans on juice shop actually. So and that's why we also have not included something like this in our own build pipeline, because we just would get the, let's say, the lowest hanging fruits, but even the medium difficulty things would not really show up in most cases.
Yeah. Okay. Now that makes sense. And then I guess another question is, so it has been, first, the project has been ongoing for the last 8 years, as you said at the start of the presentation. How has it evolved?
Okay.
So what's the difference between then and now?
Yeah, if you want to try it out, you could also still find the old source code and you could make it still run on a very old Node.js version. So when Juice Shop started, it was an Angular JS front end, so Angular 1.x version. And when Angular actually jumped to the version 2, it was a complete rewrite. So we actually had to do a complete rewrite of the front end. Back then, we also used Twitter's Bootstrap framework for the UI part, for the screens, right? And we replaced that then later on with Material Design or Angular Material. In the backend, I think we are actually quite stable. We replaced our automated REST endpoint generators like 3 times, I think. But for example, with the SQLite database, we remain stable since the beginning. We have Express we had in there since the project actually started. Yeah, so we replace whatever is needed to actually stay current. If now, for example, Google would decide to completely ditch Angular and come up with some completely different UI framework, I'm not 100% sure if I really wanted to do a migration of that, because that would mean we throw away half of the code base and kind of start from scratch again. But yeah, other than that, we try to stay current as much as possible, as you can even see with our attempt to now change the testing framework, right? Because the old one is not supported any longer, and so we actually try to catch up, and that's been working quite well so far.
Okay, excellent. And then I guess the last question before we wrap up the session is, how did you come up with the concept for Juice Shop? Okay,
basically, I'm doing web security trainings in my company for like 13 years or something already. And at the beginning, I used existing broken web applications. For example, the good old budget store by Simon Bennett's, right? So more or less the demo application for OWASP Zap that I did use for online for in-house trainings. Of course, that only has like a little bit more than a handful or a dozen of security issues, so quite limited. We also used some other third-party vulnerable apps, but none were really complete, right? So that either they had a very limited scope and you couldn't really show all kinds of things with them, and or they were like third party and you hadn't access to the source code, and that also felt kind of wrong. And that's why I basically came up to write my own vulnerable application for my trainings. And I think the first version already had like 20 something challenges built in, and then it just grew and grew and grew into what it is now. But the main reason in the beginning was really just for my own trainings. And Juice Shop existed already for 1 year, 1.5 years, I think, around about before it actually became an OWASP project. So it came to OWASP as a finished project, kind of. But when it came to OWASP, it really grew quite a bit more and got a lot more contributors. So
that's great. And thank you so much for the talk today. So I think that's a wrap. It was great listening to you, and hopefully we'll see you again sometime.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.